On September 14, 2007, a chilling incident unfolded in Stacey Castor's family. A 19-year-old Ashley headed for bed after a fun night drinking with her mom. That night, Ashley's life took a disturbing turn. The following morning, Ashley was discovered unconscious in her bed by her younger sister Bree. Ashley rushed to the hospital. Medical tests reveal a dangerous mix of painkillers and alcohol in her blood. Hospital staff say that if Ashley had arrived even a few minutes later, it could result in her death. Stacey Castor, Ashley's mother, already lives a life surrounded by misery and tragedy. Her first husband dies of a heart attack, while her second husband is poisoned with antifreeze. Tragedy strikes once more with what happens to her daughter. Later that same day, Bree discovers a letter written by Ashley. To everyone's shock, the letter contains Ashley's confession to the murders of both her biological father, Michael Wallace, and stepfather David Castor. Stacey Castor takes the letter and hands it to the police investigator.
I actually woke up in the hospital. One of the detectives was asking me questions, like, what was in that note that you wrote?
Investigators gather at the hospital where Ashley is receiving treatment. When Ashley wakes up, the police interrogate her about the murders of her fathers and the baffling letter.
But I didn't know what he was talking about, because I didn't write a note, and I didn't take anything.
The unexpected twist is that Ashley did not write the letter. Even now, she doesn't know how she ended up in the hospital. Her last memory is drinking and having fun with her mother, who gave her an alcoholic drink, something she had never drank before. Exploring what happened to Ashley on that night, finding out who wrote the mysterious letter, and uncovering the truth of Ashley's father's death reveals one of the most disturbing serial killer cases in New York's history. The case of David Castor, Ashley's stepfather's murder, stays a mystery. For the past 2 years, detectives collecting evidence about his murder. They are well aware that this letter will be a crucial turning point in their investigation. But here's the puzzling part. Ashley was only 11 when her dad died, and she was just 15 when her stepfather died. It's hard to believe that an 11-year-old could be involved in such serious crimes. This makes it even more complicated for the detectives to proceed with the case. As the investigation keeps going, Detective Dominic Spinelli leads the case towards Stacey Castor, making her the prime suspect. They discover a link between Stacey Castor and the letter that's supposed to be written by Ashley. Plus, a few more clues point the murder to Stacey Castor. On July 24, 1967, Stacey Castor is born as Stacey Daniels in Clay, New York. In 1985, she meets Michael Wallace when she is 17 years old. Wallace is a mechanic, and Castor works in an ambulance dispatch company.
Mike was the love of my life. I knew 5 minutes after I met him that I was going to marry him.
They get married, and Michael is a larger-than-life partner for Stacey. In 1988, after 3 years, the couple has their first daughter, Ashley. A few years later, in 1991, their second daughter, Bree, is born. The family seems to be growing, but as time passes, cracks start to appear in their relationship.
Michael had affairs before we were married, and I'm sure he did after.
Wallace is kind-hearted, but he struggles with drugs and alcohol for a significant part of his life. Around the end of 1999, Wallace's health takes a serious hit. He appears unsteady, coughs constantly, and his face is swollen. Doctors diagnose him with an ear infection and send him home. However, what remains unknown is that Wallace is being poisoned. A few weeks later, when Ashley returns home from school, she finds her father unresponsive on the sofa at their family home. Without realizing, her dad is in a very critical condition. She went to get her sister from school, thinking everything is as usual because her dad always sleeps on the sofa. It is the last time she'd see him alive.
Not knowing that if I had known what I know now, he wouldn't be... I could have helped him.
As his inexplicable sickness persists, he passed away in early 2000. Physicians informed Castor that her husband may have died of a heart attack. Wallace's sister is skeptical and requests an autopsy, but Castor refuses, saying that the doctor's diagnosis is accurate.
Because when his doctor told me that they believed he died of a heart attack, I believed that. There was no reason for me to question that.
Stacey buries Michael Wallace in a plot she has purchased for herself. Following Wallace's death at the age of 38, Castor collects a $55,000 life insurance payout. In 2001, 3 years after her first husband's death, Stacey meets David Castor, the owner of Liverpool Heating and Air Conditioning Company, and she gets a job as an office manager there.
David was very conscientious, very work-driven, was very into outdoors. He had snowmobiles and four-wheelers and a boat. David was support and strength and security to me.
In 2003, Stacey marries David Castor. Ashley and Bree never liked David, and they had no desire to replace their father. David also showed no interest in bonding with them.
Decided to get married.
Yes.
And how did the girls feel about that?
They weren't happy about it.
Why weren't they happy?
They didn't want their father replaced.
They went on vacations and enjoyed their lives together. However, within 2 years, their relationship started encountering problems, leading to frequent arguments. On Monday, August 22, 2005, around 2 p.m., Stacey calls the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office. She tells them that after an argument, David locked himself in their bedroom and has been missing for a whole day. Stacey also mentions that David had recently lost his father and was very sad, spending his days drinking. When police arrive, they kick open the bedroom door and discover David Castor's lifeless, naked body lying face down on the bed. Next to him, police find a half-full glass of bright green liquid, a glass of alcohol, and a container of antifreeze under the bed.
There's vomitus dripping from the bed, and you can see that there's vomitus under the antifreeze jug, but there's no vomitus on the antifreeze jug itself.
Final piece of evidence found inside the house. A turkey baster containing green liquid is discovered in a trash can. Later, it's confirmed to be antifreeze. As the investigation continues, the official report confirms that David died from a heavy dose of antifreeze. Autopsy results indicate that the cause of death is ethylene glycol poisoning, a toxic substance in antifreeze. Surprisingly, the 48-year-old David doesn't have any alcohol in his system. However, during the 911 call and the investigation, Stacey mentions that Castor has been drinking heavily, which confuses the investigators and raises suspicions about her involvement. After a few months, Stacey ends up receiving $200,000 from the property and insurance of David Castor's death. David has left everything to Stacey and her daughters in his will. Investigators suspect Stacey Castor, believing she might have killed David Castor for financial gain. On August 22, 2005, lead detective Dominic Spinelli directs the case towards Stacey Castor, marking her as the prime suspect because the glass of antifreeze found on the nightstand has 3 fingerprints on it, and they all belong to Stacey.
If David had been drinking out of that glass and poured the antifreeze himself, why didn't it contain at least 1 fingerprint of his?
Even more evidence points to Stacey's involvement in the case. While examining the turkey baster, they find David Castor's DNA only on the tip, not on any other part of the turkey baster. Not so surprisingly, the handle of the turkey baster has Stacey's fingerprint on it. Stacey Castor's plan is to kill her husband by poisoning him with antifreeze. When the initial dose doesn't immediately kill him, she uses the turkey baster to put more of the toxic liquid into David's mouth while he is incapacitated. Stacey believes she can cleverly stage it to make it appear as if David took his own life due to his depression and alcohol consumption, but all the evidence points to her involvement in the murder. However, unaware of this, she stays free. Investigators are determined to find more concrete evidence of the murder, and they also suspect Stacey is responsible for the death of her first husband, Michael. They start wiretapping Stacey's house, place cameras outside, and monitor the graves of her husbands. Surprisingly, she never showed up. Michael Wallace and David Castor, buried side by side as per Stacey's request. Detectives believe that if Stacey truly loves her husbands, she should visit their graves. They realized Stacey Castor not visiting her husband's graves meant something significant, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. However, with limited results from wiretapping and cameras, detectives believe the only way to prove Stacey's involvement in both her husband's deaths is to exhume Wallace's body. They petition for permission to exhume Michael Wallace's remains to conduct an autopsy, and after some time, their request is granted. Stacey calls for a second interview with the investigators, and she starts to panic, sensing the growing pressure from the investigators. Simultaneously, the police exhume Michael Wallace's body. Upon conducting a toxicology screening, they find evidence of antifreeze in his system, confirming that Michael Wallace also killed by antifreeze poisoning. This toxic substance is identifiable through the presence of calcium oxalate crystals in the kidneys, which were found in both Wallace and David's autopsies. Ashley has faced numerous challenges in her past, but manages to move forward. Today, she embarks on her first day of college, filled with happiness and hope for the future. However, while she's in class, her world is turned upside down. Investigators come to the college with disturbing news. They say that her father, Michael Wallace, didn't die from a heart attack. Someone poisoned him, and they said they're suspecting her mother, Stacey Castor, involved in the killings. Ashley struggles to accept what's happening. Her mother means the world to her, and the idea of her being involved in something so terrible is almost impossible to believe. Despite her doubts, Ashley decides to call Stacey, sharing the disturbing news from college. Their phone conversation is recorded by the investigators.
Hello?
Mommy, they came to my freaking school.
They came to your school? Are you okay?
I'm gonna be okay, but I'm really freaking out right now.
Oh my God. That came to your school.
When Ashley returns home from school, her mother Stacey suggests they have a drink to cope with the challenges they're facing. That night, they both indulge heavily in alcohol. The next day, Ashley goes to school with a hangover. When she comes back home, Stacey suggests they go all out and try to forget everything. She hands Ashley a glass of vodka mixed with crushed pills. The following morning, Ashley's sister Bree discovers Ashley unresponsive in her bed and immediately dials 911. The investigators make a big breakthrough in their case against Stacey Castor. They find a strong link between Stacey and the letter that's supposed to be from Ashley. Also, they discover some very incriminating pieces of evidence that strongly suggest Stacey's involvement. Forensic experts find multiple versions of the letter on Stacey's computer. Moreover, based on the timestamp and the sounds of typing on police wiretaps, it becomes clear that Ashley couldn't have written it because she was at college when the final version was saved and printed. These discoveries lead investigators to a scary conclusion. The person who wrote this letter knew a lot about the murders and is the only one responsible for both Michael Wallace and David Castor's deaths. As investigators look at the letter more closely, they notice a crucial detail. The word antifreeze is written as anti-free in 4 places. This matches what Stacey Castor has been saying in recent interviews and interrogations, where she always called it anti-free.
Well, when I poured the antifree, and then she stopped and said, I mean the cranberry juice.
Like she realizes what she's just said.
The pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and all eyes are on Stacey Castor as the main suspect in these disturbing events. Stacey Castor, despite pretending to be a grieving mother, kept a much darker secret. She planned the poisonings of both her husbands and even tried to end her own daughter Ashley's life, using a deadly mix of antifreeze and painkillers. Luckily, Ashley was taken to the hospital in time and survived. When investigators decided to dig up Stacey Castor's first husband's body, their inquiry took a sinister turn. Afraid of getting caught, Stacey came up with a wicked plan to blame her own daughter, Ashley, for the deaths of her stepfather and biological father, Michael Wallace, going back to the year 2000. Finally, in 2007, justice caught up with her. Stacey Castor, Ashley's own mother, was arrested as a ruthless killer responsible for her husband's murder. She faced additional charges for trying to harm her daughter by plotting to frame Ashley for her husband's murder. Her lies and tricks were exposed, and now she has to face the consequences of her terrible actions in the court. The trial lasted for 4 long weeks, exposing the troubling reasons behind Stacey Castor's actions. The prosecutors argued that money was a significant motive for Castor in the murders of her husbands. She aimed to collect on their life insurance policies and estates. On February 5, 2009, Judge 𝐒𝐫 sentenced Stacey Castor for second-degree murder, giving her 25 years to life in prison for David's murder and an additional 25 years for attempting to kill Ashley. Furthermore, for forging David's will, Castor received an extra sentence of 4 years in prison. During the trial, Ashley, even though she felt hurt and betrayed, bravely spoke to the judge.
The biggest question I ask is why? Why did she do these things? I know that's probably never going to be answered. There are so many things that she has ruined. She'll never be able to see Bree graduate. My father will never take me down the aisle. She'll never get to see her grandchildren. All those things she took away from me. She killed 2 people and tried to kill me and blame it on me and blame me for the other deaths. That bothers me so much. I hate my mother for ruining so many people's lives. I didn't even know why she did it. What gave her the right to play God with people? How can you hate someone and love them at the same time? I just wish that she would say sorry for everything she did, including all the lies. And though I feel bad for her today as she sits there all by herself, she's the one that did this to herself and nothing bothers her. After my mom is sentenced today, I'll go back to my loving home with people who care about me. She's not gonna go home. And if she hadn't chose to do these things, she could be home with me and Bree. She would not have to worry about anything. I've cried enough tears about this and I don't want to cry anymore.
Bree and Ashley never spoke to Castor after the trial. She said that though losing her mother was hard, I was happy that they said she was guilty.
You want the honest opinion? I hate her. I hate her.
Sadly, on June 11, 2016, Castor was found dead in her cell. At first, her death raised questions, but the DA's office later determined that she had died from a heart attack, with no sign of or foul play. Castor's complex and chilling story came to a sad and mysterious end. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more true crime videos.